You really want to know? We're on camera now.
No. Our dinner was Friday.
Did you sign in, Sean?
Are you working undercover tonight, Sean?
I'm trying to, but you got out of me, chief. What the heck?
How are you?
Welcome to the May 28th Finance Committee meeting. Tonight we're going to go through the remaining warrant articles, and we will start with the special town meeting, Article 1, and I will let Rick take that one.
Did everybody pick up a copy of this document?
Yes.
This is the menu of transfers. Does anyone else need a copy of it? And as you can see, these are the proposed budget transfers. First one, veterans benefits, I think everybody's aware of that the need for that. Leo has requested to move some of the health insurance to the Medicare expense line item, which is, all fixed costs. The movement to the selectmen's expense, this was an issue that I discussed many, many months ago when we engaged the Collins Center to do a personnel audit for us to determine that we're in compliance with state and federal laws. Took a little risk at the time, and people may recall that I suggested I would seek money later in the year to offset that. So that's what that is. The fire department salaries, that's simply, well, not simply. As you know, he's had some equipment issues, not just the ladder truck. That's a different issue. He's had a lot of apparatus problems. He's very concerned about his expense budget, meaning getting through the rest of the fiscal year. So this is a conservative number, but fortunately he has it available. So that's interdepartmental, really. The next amount is information technology that's requested by Wayne. He's looking to make some movement in terms of the website. He wants to move from one contract to another contract. Most of this is in his budget, but we're going to get a first year software payment in there. So I can give you more detail on that, but once again, it's really fairly interdepartmental, and I don't know that anybody wants to spend any time on that, so you let me know.
Is there any discussion or motions on Article 1?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
The discussion on it, I think the chart from Rick is pretty self-explanatory.
Right.
All those in favor? Oh,
Quick
Yeah.
question. Do we know how the fire department had an extra 30,000 hanging around in the salary line?
Well, I didn't have much to do with last year's operating budget, and I know there was a significant amount of concern, though, with regard to his having healthy bodies, and I think there was some anticipation going into last year that he was going to have more not unfilled positions, but injured on duty employees that you have to fill for. And
The overtime, I
So
think,
less
is
overtime.
where
Right,
it's,
that's,
Okay.
So
Yep.
fortunately, he hasn't had as much of an issue with that as he had anticipated, and that's where we stand today. That's the simplest.
that's good though, Matt, because people will ask that, I think.
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Technical point of clarification. The motion that we're fielding is for approval of Article 1 of the special town meeting.
Yes,
Correct.
We have two separate Article 1s to contend with.
Yes.
tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is that an answer?
Yes, thank you.
Any more discussion on that one? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Thank you. Article 4 on the special.
Yes, there are, I wish that I had a motion for you to consider tonight on that. There are 3 outstanding agreements that we still hope to have for you, well, for the town. One is a clerical agreement, one is the highway agreement, and the other is the manager's agreement. And the selectmen have approved include two of those, three of those. The other one, thought we were gonna be able to conclude the other night. We're still hoping that we schedule a meeting next Monday. Hopefully we can conclude that at that time. And I know that puts you in a tough spot in terms of trying to accommodate, and take votes in a timely manner. Obviously, you won't be able to have a recommendation within the time frame that you'd like to. But I simply can't get you that until the selectmen take a vote.
I was at the warrant review meeting this afternoon, and one of the things that was discussed was if we have to meet once more. If the selectmen are gonna be reviewing this next week, maybe, could we meet on Monday after their meeting and wrap up the rest of our business then? It would be that last question. So we can talk about that afterwards, but right now, there's no movement on question 4.
I was going to make a motion to take no action at this time pending further negotiations. And then we can,
Do we need a motion for that, or can we just take no action?
okay, but I mean, if you post the recommendations, you would need to post something.
Our recommendation, we're taking no action until more information becomes available.
So that's what our recommendation is.
Well, that's why we don't need to have a motion, we can just wait for more information. We can just simply
So
say, a recommendation pending, awaiting more information.
So we'll move on to the next question then.
I rescind the motion.
On to the annual.
One question.
Yes.
I have noticed from Article 2,
Of the special?
yes.
Okay.
I don't think that we took anything on that. I don't think that we did anything on that based on clarification.
I have that we recommended
Unanimously.
approval.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the notes.
The clarification on that was some language in there regarding, I don't remember the exact wording, it was the wording of it, which was revised.
Okay, all right, sorry about that.
That's all right.
Yeah, it was-
So that wraps up everything for the special, other than 4, which we'll talk about when we talk about the next meeting. So now Article 1, I guess before we jump into that, there's been an article added back on for the annual. So to save all the confusion tonight, we'll just refer to the articles about what they are. Instead of 23 that used to be 24, that used to be 22, and then was 24. I just see it being really confusing. So we'll start the first article is the Water Department pension transfer. And I will defer to Rick to talk about that.
Yeah, as of this date, the town accountant is not, asserts that there isn't simply aren't enough funds in to accommodate that request in the unfunded, the Water Department undesignated fund balance. That being the case, the item cannot be acted on until there's a certification from the town accountant that that is the case. So, really makes it a rather moot point. Not to skip ahead, but there will have to be a different revenue source identified for the second article to meet that requirement. And the water superintendent has been asked to provide that to us, so.
So for this article, there's no way to fund it, so we look for a motion to pass over it.
Motion to pass over?
Second?
Discussion on it?
If I could just add that it's certainly not out of the question that this could be funded at the fall town meeting once, again, they're, just like free cash, their accounts are closed out and there's a balance derived.
Sounds like there's a little more work to do on that article.
Yes.
Just during discussion.
Yep.
Are we're up to date, so to speak, aside from the arrears, we're up to date with our contribution to the pension for the joint water? We were in arrears for a period.
Except for this unofficial amortization test, that's correct.
Any more discussion on this? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Thank you.
7?
Next. There were articles for a pickup truck, water meters, and servers, and the last discussion was pushing that off to the fall town meeting.
Yes. 7, yes.
7, 8, and 9 on the
Well,
current
6,
version.
7, 8.
Right. Same, well, two issues. One, is along with capital, and two, is there any way to fund it under what, water undesignated fund balance? So,
So on those, same thing, if we would look to pass those over.
Motion pass over those articles.
Second?
Is there any discussion on those?
What is the balance of the water undesignated fund?
Rusty, I don't have a balance, but the town accountant would assert that it's not a positive balance. It's a way of, the water department is looking, asserting that there's funds, but they're looking at them on a cash flow basis, not on a municipal accounting basis. So from the account standpoint, there is no fund balance at all. There is no positive fund balance. There should be at the end of the fiscal year, but right now there isn't a positive fund balance.
So it's the same as using free cash that's not certified.
Exactly. You can't do it. I
Supplemental
don't have
budget.
the exact, what the exact number is. You just have the town accountant is telling us there is no fund balance currently.
Thank you. The anticipated fund balance, then, at the end of the fiscal year?
I don't have that number, and I don't think that anybody can give you that number until the water superintendent and the town accountant are able to have more of a sit-down.
So that's just a final piece, less of an indictment, maybe kind of seems like it's inflammatory, but it just seems remarkably unorthodox to be at this particular point in our fiscal year to truly have an account that is so question mark, possibly negative balance based on generally accepted accounting practices and principles, to say, geez, something doesn't seem right. That was more of a comment, I suppose, Chad, than it was a question.
Is there more discussion on this one?
I'm just only appreciative that wasn't a question.
All those in favor of passing over the 3 articles? Opposed?
Wait a minute. Those are 2 articles.
3.
3.
7, 8,
Truck,
9.
meters, and servers.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
Those 3.
I have
I skipped one. So that the handout that we got today, there was an article added back in, or added in, not back in, that wasn't on the earlier work.
And can I explain that just briefly?
Yep.
Historically, there has been an article on there
What is it?
funding elected officials' salaries and increases, and this is actually some of
And
my
that's
ignorance.
approved.
This is not the format that I'm used to. There's only one elected official who has a compensation in town right now. The budget reflects the current salary of the town clerk. The town clerk has requested an increase that was initially in the budget. We backed it out of the budget in favor of putting the article on that has historically been this town's method of funding increases for elected officials. So that was my own experience with this particular format. But the numbers, so that was Article 4, which I understand used to be, traditionally would be Article 2, to fund those raises of the elected officials, there being only one now. That's what that equates to historically. And that is, as the town clerk pointed out today, reflects a 4% increase in her salary, current salary, which is being broken out separately in the budget too, just so the town can see it.
And that number is covered under your line
Right,
for
that-
warrant articles.
Right, in the worksheet that you previously had, this top line, total warrant articles, 42,117, that is in there. So it's not a matter of finding funding, it's a matter of format and whether or not people want to recommend it, the town wants to vote.
I'll recommend approval of Article 4.
Second.
Discussion on this?
Wait, because I'm, it was in the budget?
It's been backed out of the budget line item. And it's in this, on the worksheet as a part of the
It's the fourth.
total of articles that have been requested.
Okay.
So it's a format issue, but it's the same.
And there's
bottom line.
funding for it.
Yes,
It was,
it's the same
it's
bottom
in
line.
the, okay, all right.
So the warrant articles is 47,
42,117.
so it's
Okay.
in that
So
42.
In that number, okay.
Yes.
So the overall numbers haven't changed.
Correct.
It's just where this is,
How you're requesting
Being
it is
accounted
different.
for.
This article is something that every year, because
Right.
it's an elected position, has to be
Voted.
Right.
for any increase.
And it's not, the format for that can be different ways, and again, different towns handle it differently. So that's why, my bad.
I just was making sure that that we know that the bottom line, that I understood, that the bottom line doesn't
covered.
change.
But it does raise the question as to whether or not you're gonna recommend pay increase for the town clerk. And it's not something, that's less obvious in a budget. That's all. And that's the intent of the law, so.
So there's a motion and a second, some discussion. Is there more discussion?
Just a point of clarification, I guess, for me. So this is not the same Article 4 that was in the previous documents. This is newly added as well.
Yes.
Everything moves down
Because
one.
So that it really should be close to the budget article, because it's basically all similar in nature.
And what was the percent increase?
She put in a 4% increase.
And in looking at other increases to salaries, where would you say that falls in line?
Well, that's hard to pinpoint, because right now, there is no proposed increases for non-union people.
Right.
Which there are very few. There is nothing online in the collective bargaining discussions with the management group, and the management group, with the exception of one position, which commitment that was made when the gentleman was hired. With regard to other collective bargaining agreements, the library group that, and the others are similar, but I don't want to get too, until the selectmen take votes on these things, was a 3%, which covered basically 3 years of nothing prior. So this is a 4%. It's in the ballpark. It's in the ballpark. It's kind of, I'm going to be careful how I discuss this.
Right, yeah, no, I want you to be careful.
But it's not outrageous, I'll put it that way, especially if you put it in the context of some.
Oh, I would never question absolutely
Yeah.
that it's deserved. I just am
Yeah.
leery of setting a precedent, I guess, or if we're looking to see if we're, falling in line with
Right. And-
other like
right, and-
increases.
And one of the, as you know from the special, both you and the selectmen are recommending a wage classification survey next year, which will give us more, broader information as to that being the case, but I suspect you'll find the town clerk is not overpaid.
No.
Chad,
Yes.
I thought we already voted the budget last week, and this is just now a matter of kind of part and parcel circumstance, so to speak. We already voted the number last week, we already voted the increase last week, so to speak. Now we're just saying we have to vote two separate articles. This one and re-vote the main budget, because we have a difference
The
between the two.
budget's not different. The budget's, hasn't changed. This was in the
Well,
budget.
The budget should be reduced by,
Well, again, it was back down and put in this other number, so.
right, so it's two separate articles now. So the budget we voted last week is not the same budget as this week.
Right.
So you need to revisit that one. But my point being is we voted it last week with the intent of the master number, so nothing's different. We just have a couple of bureaucratic exercises that we have to go through.
So we'll vote this one now. Any more discussion on this one?
Bad enough, bad enough.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Thank you. So we'll go through these questions and then go back to the budget, Sean?
Yeah?
Go through these questions, then you want to go back to the budget?
Sure. Need to go back to the budget?
I'm
Well,
confused on
so
that.
your budget should have changed, right? So
If
the
there
article.
wa- if there was a change in the numbers, I believe what
Yeah.
Sean is saying is that if there was a change in the numbers, even
It
if.
changed before.
Even if the
Prior.
overall
The change was prior,
changed,
because-
it was
Right,
a
the
change
number-
within
the number
where
came
things
out
were.
Prior and was put into this number on the worksheet. The budget itself has been the budget, so there's no reason.
Perfect.
Conceptually, what you're saying is true, but.
They got half of it done. They
Yeah.
already adjusted the budget.
Perfect.
And this just is not
We'll
catching
work
up.
this out before town meeting.
So the next question
Just not saying which town.
is the article to amend the charter for the Department of Public Works. So we've had that one on there. We haven't voted on it previously.
That would be Article 18 in your document.
In today's document, 18. That's to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition the general court for special legislation to create a Department of Public Works, as set forth below, and I'm not reading any more of it.
This was the previous Article 17 that we tabled.
Yes.
Just making sure.
And before that, it was 18.
Okay.
And then it was 17, and now we're at 18.
At least it's
It
close.
could be 19.
Stick around.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion on this article?
For clarification purposes, what's the point?
The point is that it provides for consolidation of the management of these departments. It maintains the policy and regulatory authority of the various boards, though, elected boards. For instance, your Park and Recreation Commission is still responsible for determining what programs are going to be run. That's exactly the way it is today. Sewer commissioners will maintain policy and rate-setting authority, so it's really a consolidation of the workforce in the management of those functions.
So all these functions are gonna roll up into one commissioner,
Right.
or super, or whatever that position's called, they're gonna roll up into that.
In right now, the only, it does not include the water department because, again, because of the joint.
It's a joint.
Yep.
Of the involved commissions and committees, the sewer commission is the only one that currently has appointing authority. That would be deferred to the town manager in consultation with the sewer commissioners. So that's the only, I guess you'd say. So the Park and Rec Committee, for instance, had no appointing authority, so there really isn't, one of the things I was concerned with in doing this is, well, I don't want anyone to feel like they're losing control of their sphere of influence and, that they've been elected or appointed to uphold. And quite frankly, I don't want them to either because, I don't want all that falling back ultimately to the Board of Selectmen. No offense, but, there's a lot, there's enough to do. And we have volunteers that have become fairly expert in these areas, so. And the legislation is very thorough in terms of putting it into the context of the current language of our current charter, amending the appropriate sections that have to be amended, so we don't look at 6 months and say, whose job is that?
This is a way to become, recognize some efficiencies with
Right.
groups.
So who runs it?
It is run by a DPW superintendent appointed by the town manager in consultation with the sewer commission, probably, and with the veto authority by the selectmen already.
That's a current position?
That's the position in the amended charter request.
So there is no such person now?
Correct. However,
Doesn't that have financial considerations at some point?
it does, and the reason why, let me take a little step back. Some of you are probably aware, well, you are because it's on the warrant, that 2014 is a charter review year per the charter itself, a 10-year review. So the question would be, why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we letting this go through that process? And the reason is because right now we're down a major department head in our superintendent of highways. So we have a vacancy in essentially a 6-figure plus job. So now is the time to try to advance this forward rather than try to wait for a whole charter review process. It could take a year and a half. So hopefully we can take advantage of the fact that we have a vacant position to restructure. so that we're not adding a position that we don't currently have on the books. So we are trying to minimize any financial impact by doing it now while we have a vacant position.
And so it would be a replacement of position rather than an additional position, so that we would then have two
That-
vacant positions.
There's multiple possibilities, and it would be impossible for me to tell you right now if the town would be replacing that from within the current ranks, or if we'd be seeking outside to do that. I mean, it would just be irresponsible for me to do that, but right now, based upon the fact that there is a vacancy in a department head position, would be the time to make a change.
So,
I actually meant more generally, it would be one position as the head of the Department of Public Works, as opposed to a head of Department of Public Works and a head of the Highway Department?
It's very possible. I'm glad you brought that up. One of the components of the legislative act is that it would allow the DPW superintendent to serve as in the role of a sewer superintendent or in the role of a highway superintendent currently, under that one umbrella. And the reason why that's important is so that there aren't any ethical problems with somebody accusing an individual or the town of having somebody serving in more than one position. So the legislation does contemplate that one individual could be serving as the DPW director and what is now one of the superintendents of one of the divisions,
or all of them.
or all of them. That'd be, I'm not sure I'd want that job. I mean, that certainly could happen. And it may ultimately, who knows, several years down the road, have a ripple effect on the rest of the organization. You know, some of the union employees who stewards, et cetera, may have more responsibility, and some of the department head, what are now department head of division heads might be downsized. I mean, that'll take a life of its own over the next, half a dozen, 10 years. I don't want to predict where that could go, but it does contemplate that one person could wear several hats within the organization without an ethics conflict.
So this is essentially the creation of a DPW that we've been talking about for a while, and as far as how that's going to look, et cetera, this is basically requesting the authorization to create a DPW within the town.
That is correct.
Okay.
Which many will tell you to a great extent we already have, since the last couple of years, the more somewhat unofficial consolidation of the park, more so than recreation, of the park department into the highway department. So the town's clearly been moving in that direction with less formality, and I don't think this is a huge jump from where we are today.
Yes, Sean.
Go ahead, Rick, I'll defer to you. I got plenty.
Oh, all right. No, I just wanted to bring up the fact that we also had a park superintendent, which that position was eliminated through the passing of an individual.
Yeah, so there's been some downsizing
Right.
in the upper level administration, which
Right.
You ready, Sean?
I'm pretty good.
All right.
don't push them.
I think it's a great article.
This is just a matter of semantics. So in our community, we seem to have entrusted the Board of Health to oversee trash. And I noticed that under so-called Article 18, Section 571, Paragraph 3, it then gives now the selectmen, based on your recommendation and the new appointed Director of Public Works, the ability to, after a public hearing, to then take the trash away from the public health and put it here.
That's true. I would suggest that right now, the selectmen could already do that because they actually signed the contract. And the Board of Health and their staff actually do us a tremendous service by overseeing and managing that contract. It's really a contract of the Board of Selectmen already. So nothing would make them happier not to have to deal with it, but I suspect it'll be some time before that's the case.
So herein lies the question. It's delegated authority by the Board of Selectmen, so I guess, why do you even need that paragraph if they can do that without any big to-do? Why add bureaucracy if we don't need to? How about we just leave the
Well, let me
sentences?
tell you the point of, let me give you a different scenario. We pointed out that any other function could be delegated out. Let's say, for the sake of argument, there was a change in what is now the joint waterworks. And it was the intent to put the water department under a DPW. That would be I think more of a typical, a scenario that it might be more, fall into the intent of that particular provision. Or if there was going to be potentially a townwide, including schools or whatever, facilities management program. And I'm just talking off the top of my head right now. But those are the types of things that it's, I think, really more intended to deal with this. Because I would agree that right now, the Board of Selectmen really does have ultimate control over the trash collection contract. It's not out of I don't foresee a day when the town would get into the trash business and have our own trash trucks in like the old days, but I guess there's a lot for that.
Okay.
Any more discussion on this? Motion to recommend approval. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Next is the bylaw amendment about dirt. On today's handout, that is, not that one, it's 20. So there was great discussion about this one. There was a request to see the existing bylaw on that, and that was today's handout. There was one page, and it ends with section 10, and it's 2.25 lines long.
Did everybody get it?
So that's the existing rules, and that here's the proposed rules.
Can you just make it simpler for me here?
Sure. What would you like to know?
So,
How much
in
is 100
excess,
yards?
yeah, I know how much 100 yards is now. In excess of 100 yards. So that would mean if I was looking to put loam down in my yard,
Your yard's about 100 yards of dirt.
that's what I'm, so,
A homeowner going and reseeding their yard or bringing in mulch, they'd have to
Would
have a
not-
really big yard.
okay.
Or want to put a hill in it, like to sled down to hit 100 yards. This is multiple tractor trailer loads to hit 100 yards. I looked it up. I was looking at pictures today. A big dump truck with 10 wheels on it, that's 10 yards.
Keep in mind the current bylaw, that's the provision of the current bylaw too. So
Is-
That's not a change.
Okay.
What this does is adds some rules to what that permit is.
Okay.
So the current bylaw has,
I guess
there's
it's
gonna
probably,
be a permit
that's
issued.
more what I was asking, I guess, is
So
the
this
100
just-
yards is not a change from how it
No.
currently is.
And the bylaw just explains more of the process and
Okay.
puts some, what is the permit and what it's going to include. It adds notification things in.
Okay.
So it doesn't change the limits.
Okay.
Yeah, my understanding of a number of the issues that existed, that people raised with the current bylaw too, is this issue of what's a definition of landfill material. The building commissioner had some of his own concerns about how enforceable that was for the lack of definition, so.
Okay.
So the point of this was to clean up some of those language issues. But while you're at it, make this put more clarity into what the requirements are, and the hearing requirements.
So we went from 3 lines to a page.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Next is,
I am opposed, yes.
no,
Are you sure?
I'm positive. There's the marijuana dispensary.
Oh, right. Which number is that?
That is on today's
Oh, 22,
papers.
23?
It's 25. So this, we got the language for this at the last meeting, and I had asked if we could have some time
Right.
to review it.
Yep.
So that was what I did this weekend. Hopefully everybody else did. So this is to amend the zoning bylaws by adding in the language about a marijuana dispensary. And it's really long, and I'm definitely not reading all this to you. Is there discussion on this?
I could just point out that last year the town approved a moratorium on citing of dispensaries, which you're allowed to do for a limited period of time. The goal of the moratorium is to provide appropriate time for the community to develop a bylaw or ordinance depending on its own government. So this is what the planning board has done on the heels of this moratorium to comply with that, to ensure that there is appropriate zoning for that type of facility, rather than it be just the ability to put that type of facility anywhere in the community.
Does said parcel exist in the community?
Yeah, one of the pages in here shows where the zoning is. By special permit, it's highway commercial, it's industrial, and it's technology business. I did grab the map from the town clerk if anybody's interested in seeing that. They didn't zone it to only be in the middle of a wetland. I mean,
It'll be interesting to see.
so highway commercial is the upper half of Route 18, and you can see there's legends on there that say where it is. So it's right in the middle. That's one of the allowed areas. Industrial is a gray part on the top right. There's a purple block and then a gray block. It looks from here to be the top of 58 where it hits the Weymouth line.
Okay.
And technology business
And
is
then-
right above that, heading into Weymouth. So
So
that's
all
it.
the way down Route 18?
Not all the way down Route 18.
Most of
Where?
the way down.
Most of the way, probably down to 139.
But then
Sean, can you
in
point that out
section
for me?
H,
Highway commercial? On 18?
Pink. That's,
That's highway commercial.
So
And
it's
then
coming
it
down-
starts with industrial, with technology business.
So 123 is Barton Ave, it's highway commercial there. That's 18, going on to 123. All the way to here, Shar Ave, 139 is right here, goes all the way up. The ale house is right there.
Right.
So this puts them in certain areas. There's
Thanks.
language in here regarding signage, hours, sizes.
Yeah, I did see
know,
that.
I-
I just
and
didn't
then
know.
boundary restrictions
But-
are
yeah.
H through L.
Yeah, footage requirements to neighbors, doctor's offices, schools, all that stuff. It's
Right.
it's a zoning thing. And we see this, the town has zoning rules in place for other businesses. I think it's really well written. I would look, hopefully we can get a motion to defer it to the planning board. I think it's more in line with what they do.
And just for clarification purposes, to my understanding, that was what we did in the last meeting.
We didn't vote on this.
We did not
We
vote
did
on
not
we
it.
vote.
discussed
Okay. So we
doing that in
discussed
the last
deferring it to
meeting,
Yeah,
planning.
but-
Chad
Yeah.
wanted to look over the
Yeah.
plan.
And if this wasn't to pass, in today's warrant review, the town council was there. If none of this happened, and the town doesn't act on this, by the rules that the state has set up, marijuana dispensary could open anywhere.
Right.
Anywhere in town, not just zoned retail. The way the state has worded it, it could open right next door to you, whether or not you're in a retail district or not.
basically, if nothing happens with this,
Right, we have to put the rules
the
in there.
the moratorium ends.
The moratorium ends at
And
the end of
it's-
June, regardless of what we
And
do.
everything is fair.
And the whole town is zoned for that at that point. There is no zoning, so they can open anywhere, wherever the state sees fit.
So what is your suggestion?
I think it belongs with planning. I would look for a motion to defer this to the planning, like we've done with some other
Hasn't it been
articles.
submitted by the planning board?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right, I think you defer to their recommendation.
defer to their recommendation.
Yes, their the recommendation is obviously to approve this bylaw.
I don't know, I feel a little bit differently about that. I do agree that it falls in line with their recommendation. I think that it's a hotter topic, though, that we tend to weigh in on.
Make a motion.
I motion to approve recommendation of this article.
Say motion to recommend approval.
I do.
That's our second.
I'll make a second for purpose of discussion.
Is there discussion on it?
I agree, take a stance. I think that the admonition exists, we have a moratorium that's going to expire, and to allow it to be deferred and pushed off runs a risk at town meeting to allow this to expire. And since it does appear so late in the warrant, it doesn't make much sense to allow for someone to say, call for a quorum, and find out that we don't have one, allow the moratorium to expire, and then next thing you know, you open up your back door and you have that there without regulation or any other oversight except what's promulgated by the state. AKA, I agree with Barbara.
I don't think it's ever happened.
Very rare.
Is there further discussion? on
Where's
this?
my second? You can second it.
The only thing I would add is that, and I think you know this, the planning board has been awful on time.
That's clear in this. Yeah, this is really detailed.
So I'm sure they would appreciate the support.
I just, when we were recommending about the moratorium, we took a stance on that. And that, so that's how I feel about continuing to let it be known how we feel about it, especially because they have put, we're not saying, oh, we think it should be this or we think it should be that. They've already done all of that work. We're basically agreeing with them.
Okay. Any more discussion? Motion is to recommend approval. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Thank you. So that leaves just Article 4 of the special, so we're done with the warrant review, other than that. So we want to talk about the next meeting.
Cold and right together.
With the selectmen meeting on Monday at 6, is anybody gonna throw stones at me if I suggest that we meet at 7 to wrap up the business on Monday? One question.
Can I just think for a second what I have?
I actually can't do Wednesday next week, so that's
Monday would work great for you.
So that works better for you.
So we've got one for Monday.
I don't think I can make Monday. It's June 2nd.
Is it? It can be warmer.
Maybe.
I can do Monday.
We've got 2. I can do Monday. We've got 3,
Monday.
4,
I can be here.
5. We've got a quorum.
Yeah, I can.
Barbara, 6.
Be able to do Monday.
Come on, Stephanie. Drive quick.
I will drive as quickly as I can.
All right.
Want to vote by phone?
Safely. She'll drive as safely as she
Within
can.
the posted speed limit.
Right.
Yeah.
Then forget it.
While in the.
Okay, so we'll post for Monday at 7, because I don't think I can post at the conclusion of the selectmen's meeting, can I?
No,
It has to be a time.
It has to be
Okay.
48 hours.
Would you consider 7:30 as a special meeting?
Does that help you, Stephanie?
I could try.
7, I think it's a great
I mean,
suggestion.
7:30 works better for me,
Well,
especially on a
just-
Monday.
Pomp and circumstance again, why not just post for a joint meeting, conclude the meeting after they're done with their discussion, we can take our vote, and we can be done.
You're getting tricky for me, that's way over my head now.
Well, there's no harm, we can post at the same time.
Only because they have a couple other things too.
Right,
But
and they're
you
gonna meet at
control their agenda.
6:30.
So you can put this on the first on the
I
agenda.
believe they meet at 6 o'clock.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
I
they're meeting at
definitely
6.
can't do that. That would be,
Yeah, the goal
that
is
would kill me.
I don't think we'll get a
to
quorum
do
at
their
6.
business and be out in time to.
I don't want to give up this table.
By 7.
What was that?
Well, then we'll lose our table if it's adjourned. We'll have to sit over there.
I have a remarkable quantity of cherry tomatoes for which I was going to bring with me.
So
Okay.
7:30?
That works.
7:30 on
Okay.
Monday? Great. And I spoke with Dory, she may have already posted that when I was here today, so I asked her if she could talk to you. I don't know who's going to post it. It may be posted. I did say that I always talk to Deb when we post meetings.
Did you already do an agenda?
No, that was gonna be the only
It's
thing on it.
posted.
All
So
right.
As soon as you get the agenda, it will be posted.
Be there tonight.
Well, she may have posted the meeting itself, but the agenda needs to follow.
Okay.
She may
The
post
agenda
it
doesn't
both.
have to be within 48 hours, but
Where is my agenda? So, no, my hand. So next is liaison reports. Anyone?
Fire department needs a truck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
I was on top of things.
Review of minutes. We have minutes from the May 20th meeting. And it looks like everybody was here.
Move to approve?
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Correspondence, there wasn't any. I actually checked the mailbox today. And the next meeting we've talked about is Monday at 7:30. Does anybody have anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining?
It's
a
always
lot.
one or two in every crowd.
there's always one you have to have.